Principal Consultant for the Center for Organizational Effectiveness. We are thrilled that you've joined us for our webinar series, The Fundamentals and Practical Leadership for New and Emerging Leaders. This is our first module of 9 modules that will happen over the next year. And this one focuses on your reason to lead. So I just want to start by welcoming all of you here. For those of you, of course, all of us are now so familiar with the use of virtual technology. This is Zoom webinars, which is a little different from Zoom. You'll note that your camera is off, and so is your mic. You do have some ways, of course, of participating. That is by using your chat, by raising your hand, or by using the question and answer on your little console there. You'll see also that we will be having some interactive polls, and we'll talk about how to use those, because of course we want to hear from you and your experience. There are about 100 participants on, and that's the reason why we've chosen to use Zoom webinars for this. The session will be recorded for your reference, and as we go through today, you'll learn that there's a website where all the materials will be, including the PowerPoint, the video, and any handouts and information that is required for each of the different sessions. We will be going into interactive polls and then coming back to Zoom. One of the things that I'll ask you to do is, if you're not sure where you are, just always look for the Zoom blue camera here for you to be able to come back on. So a little bit about the Center for Organizational Effectiveness. We have been around for 20 years, and we started this webinar series last year as we celebrated 20 years. And in a moment, you'll meet the 4 of us who work full-time at the center. We do have other associates that join us as well. Our work involves strategic planning, organizational development, collaborations and partnerships, transition planning, which includes unifications, integrations, amalgamations, mergers. We're doing lots of those these days. Program evaluation, community-based research, mediation and facilitated conversations, and communications planning. So our why is to create greater good for our world by strengthening organizations, communities, and systems to better serve their people. And we're pretty passionate about the work that we do. So I'd like today just to introduce you to our teammates, our team. So I'll ask them to come on camera. Hopefully you'll see them. And just say a few words about what they bring to the center, the work that they do. And as you'll see throughout the series, they'll be joining us. So I'll turn, Kathleen, if you want to share who you are a little bit.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kathleen Schurz, and I've been at the center for about 3 years. For these webinars, I do a lot of the support work in the background. So if you have any questions, or need to get materials from the website or anything like that, I'm the one you will be in contact with. I also do a lot of research and communications work for the center. Carrie, you're next.
Thanks, Kathleen. I'm Carrie Selkirk. I've been with the center for just over 2 years now, and you'll be a little bit sick of seeing me by the end of the 9 weeks because I will be engaged in a number of the webinars. So looking forward to sharing this information with you. And as a senior consultant, I do work engaging with projects, sometimes in the background, doing facilitating focus groups and that kind of thing. I also lead some projects in strategic planning. Governance work is something else that I do, and generally supporting organizations as per our why to do good work in our communities. Thank you.
Karen. And I think Gerda might be having technical difficulties. I'll just see. Gerda, are you able to connect? Might be that she isn't. So Gerda is our senior research and evaluation consultant. Gerda has tremendous experience in the areas of program evaluation, quality improvement, and community-based research. So she does a lot of our backbone and extraordinary work in those areas. So you'll be hearing from Gerda as well, particularly in the area that has to do with program evaluation. So those are our consultants and the work that we do together, again, to really focus on our why. So thank you for them joining us, just to do a quick introductions as we go forward. And so As we started to put this webinar series together, some of the things that we heard from the many organizations that we work in, and we work in many, many sectors. We work in community health, we work in primary care, we work in youth mental health, children's mental health, adult mental health, addictions, employment, youth justice. And one of the things that we heard a lot was that there wasn't a lot of good information for emerging and new leaders. And that's why this series came to be. The other thing that we heard was from a lot of different executive directors was that it was really important for people not only to learn about how to do things or what to do as a leader, but the why of who you are and your leadership. And it's for this reason that we're starting our series today focused on the why. So this session, as you'll see, will invite you to think about what you want, why you want to be a leader or a manager, what it is about leadership and management that fits with your personal values, what the differences are between management and leadership, and then really consider those questions as they relate to your value system. So be ready to really dig deep in terms of those questions today and through the reflection process after this session. So, but we want to learn a little bit about who you are. As I mentioned, currently we have about 125 of you on, and we think it's really important to get a sense. So what we're going to do, because of course we can't spend time introducing everybody, is we're going to use a poll to just gather information about you. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to use the chat. So what I need you to do is just open up your chat and put your name in your chat. And this will give me an opportunity to see that everybody's hearing me and that you're able to access it. So just open your chat and just put your name. Thanks, Noelle. Hello, everyone. I see you. Thank you. Awesome. Perfect. We'll just give people an opportunity just to do that. Fantastic. So as you're doing that, in a moment, once we see that everybody's in and done that, thank you for that. You'll see in a moment that we're going to put a link to a poll there. And what I'm going to ask you to do is click on that link. So hover over it with your mouse and click on it. And it's going to take you to a new browser. And there's going to be a few questions that I'll ask you to answer there. And today we're going to go between that browser and Zoom. So once you answer the question there, I'll ask you to minimize that and look for your Zoom symbol and come back. And what that will do is it will give you an opportunity not only to see your answer, but to see the group's answers. And then that way you'll be able to get a sense of who's with us. All right, so Kathleen, thank you, has put the poll there. So if you just want to click on that poll, on the link that she's given you, and then go there. Sometimes it asks you for your name. You don't have to put your name there. But what you'll do there is just answer the first question, which is recognizing that you may cross sectors. With what sector do you primarily identify? And again, this will just give us a good sense of who's with us today. Oh, and this is working so fast. Sometimes you have to really wait for our internet to work, but I think we've gotten so much better over the months through COVID. So excellent. We see that everybody's having no problem accessing the poll, which is great. So once you put your answer in again, just minimize, come back. Yeah, so Paula, Kathleen will work with you on that. I see your question there on the chat. Thank you. Excellent. So we see that we have 35 people from community support services, children's mental health, children's services, children's mental health, employment, housing, mental health and addictions, primary care, justice, and a few others. So thank you. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to ask you the next question. So I'll ask you to go back to the link and I'll post it there again. Oops. Yep, there it is. I'll post it again just in case. There you go. And so the next question, so you go back to that link now, and the next question is, how long have you been in a formal leadership position? So maybe for years, I'm not yet, but I aspire to. 1 year or less. Oh, you're fast. Great. Longer than I can count my fingers. Count on my fingers. So let's just see. That gives us a good sense as well of who's participating. And it's really quite interesting, even though this series has been for new and emerging leaders, we do see a lot of seasoned leaders as well. And some of the feedback that we've heard is that it's been affirming and it's also been helpful to refresh their own skills as well. So welcome to everybody. So thank you. We see a lot of new and emerging leaders in polls 1, 2, and 3, answers 1, 2, and 3. And then for 4 to 10 years, 20, and then some veterans as well. Excellent. Thank you. Take one more poll. So again, I'll post the link up for you. And last of these questions, when did you know that you wanted to be a leader? Now, the way that this poll works is you type in your answer. So as long as you want to make that answer, I'm going to ask you to stay here, because what you'll see is you'll see everybody else's answers start to come up. And from there, you'll be able to like the answers that also apply to you. So early in my career, oh no, we're just going to see people's answers here. So sorry, once you've typed in your answer, then I'll ask you to come back to Zoom, and then you'll see everybody's responses come up. So we'll just take a moment to read through them. I love that. I've always just been thrown into leadership roles since I was young. I've always wanted to be a leader when I was in university, when I started with my agency, since I was a young girl. Love that. About 6 years ago, when I had a great leader above me. Yeah, isn't that true? The mentoring and the modeling that happens for so many of us. Age 9 to 10, wow. Early in my career. Wow, the opposite there. When I experienced a leader who was toxic and probably thought I can do better. Thank you. I was already a leader as a young child. Yeah, for so many people, it really is a part of who you are, that identity of what it means to be a leader. Early in my career. Wow, when I first started with my organization, within a couple of years of working with my team. Excellent. Yeah, for many of you, it appears that a lot of you knew early on, really early on, or as you started in high school. Excellent. Early in my career. We just let a few more people go through. Yeah, lots of people early. After education upgrade. Wow, that's amazing. When I realized that leadership was not about control, and is that ever true? I've always wanted to be in a managerial role in all of my employment. Within a few years of working, that's awesome. When mentoring others became important to me. Wonderful. I like to help people, and for me, being helpful is an important part of being a leader. Absolutely. It was organic, yeah, just kind of emerged and evolved. When I knew that my experience and voice could make a difference and create an impact, that's amazing. It's really speaking to the why, which is really good, because that's what we want to talk about today. I actually didn't know until I started work in the CSS sector. Wow. Through successful projects, as long as I can't remember. Playing sports, that's interesting. Different experiences. 4 years into my role. I keep finding myself here. Further education. It sprung up on me, but I've been given feedback since childhood that I have strong leadership attributes. Excellent. Some sort of leadership role. Thank you. Okay. So I'll let that continue on. And now what I'll ask you to do, if you're not seeing it scroll all the answers, then just look for that Zoom icon and come back to it, and we'll continue. So thank you for that. Come back to it in a moment. So let's now just keep focusing on our agenda today. So the why. So many of you might be familiar with Simon Sinek's work, and if not, you will receive these slides, and you'll see that there's a hyperlink to a very brief video when he explains all of this. But what's really important here is that in leadership, we can really talk about what do you actually do, or how do you do what you do? And those are really important questions. And you'll see that for the rest of the webinar series, that's where we're going to focus, is on the how and the what. But at the heart of it, we really need to think about why. What is your purpose and what drives you? And even beyond leadership, it's really important and valuable as a leader to be able to articulate what it is that drives you and motivates you to do the work that you do. Many of you talked about mentors, or being able to have experiences of people who made a difference. And that's part of it, I'm sure. It certainly has been for me, of people that I've really admired. It appears that they really have a clear sense of their core purpose. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And so as a part of this, I'm going to be sharing my why statement. And as you go through today, and for those of you who are in the certificate, part of the work will be for you to create your why statement. So I want to speak about my why statement with a bit of hesitation, because as you will see as you develop it, or if you have one already, that it is a bit of a moment of vulnerability to share it. And I also want to say that for me, it's something that I aspire to and fail miserably often. So here it is for your example. So my why, my core purpose, or my mission. I actually started to write this when I was 24 years old. It was an assignment similar to the one that you're going to be receiving. And it has served me very well throughout my years as a leader. So here goes. Knowing we belong to an everlasting story of love. So my core purpose is anchored on love. May my life be an expression of this as I make relationships the focal point of my life. May these relationships be built on love, passion, intimacy, honesty, integrity, laughter, and joy, qualities I desire for myself. May these qualities be truest in my marriage with my most intimate companion, with my family and my friends. May I be a mother whose actions, words, intentions, and desires lead my children to realize that they are part of this everlasting story of love. May my life be an expression of this as I work with others to co-create a world of justice, peace, and love, using all of my gifts for the service of others, especially the least in our world. May I lead from a place of servant leadership, celebrating when others say, we did it ourselves. May I take time to exercise, rest, relax, celebrate, and nurture myself. And may our home be a place of welcome and hospitality, where others are reminded that they too belong to this everlasting story of love. So over this time period, it certainly has changed and morphed, but it has really anchored me as I've thought about my why and the decisions I make and the way that I lead. So we hope that this will give you an example of what one might look like. So I want to know what you think. So we're going to go back to the polls. So I'm going to put the poll back up and just ask you about this idea of having a why statement or a mission statement. So let me just get to the next one. Oh, sorry. Sorry. There we go. So the first question, do you have a written why or core purpose mission statement? So yeah, there we go. Good. Getting answers. Yeah, lots of people, and it makes sense that you may not. This is very common, but I hope that you might consider writing one, particularly for those of you in the certificate program. You'll be asked to do that as part of the assignment. It's awesome. Some of you are in the process of creating one, and others have one, which is great. And for those of you who do, it will be an opportunity for you to look at it and see if it needs to be refreshed. All right, thank you. So for those of you who may have just joined, I don't know when, but we are asking you to just go on the link that was put in the chat. So I'll put it up again. And we'll be using this quite a bit so that we can hear from everybody. So you can click on it, and then that way it takes you to a browser where you open up and see the poll. So the second question, going back again to your polls, I put the link again. And the next question is, how would you see this as valuable for you? So if you were to write one up, what do you think it might do if you were to write it? I'll just wait for some responses. Grounding. That's a great word. And you'll see that I'm going to be using it as I think about 2021. Keeps me focused, a sense of direction. Yeah, something to strive for. All of those are part of what it's been for me, for sure. Takes time to stop and truly reflect versus just going through the motions. Absolutely. Keep me focused, know my purpose. And you know, sometimes I'm sure all of us have experienced this where we feel so stressed out, or there's just so many responsibilities on us, or so much to do, or COVID fatigue, which I know so many people are experiencing right now. And for me, when I remember to go back to it, even if it's on a monthly basis, and say, okay, yes, I remember why I do what I do, it helps me to prioritize, to get more centered. All of the things that you're articulating here, it guides me, clarify purpose and next steps. It would help me to remain true to myself. Absolutely. When you're thinking about making big decisions, it's helpful to go back and say, what did I say I was about? Reaffirming, yes, it guides my decisions. Absolutely. Yeah. Staying focused and goal-driven. And you'll see that in mine. I started all of mine with may I, because I know I happen to be very goal-driven, and it was important for me to give myself breathing space to say, hopefully I can move into a gentler approach to my core purpose. Something to feed my motivation and remind myself of the bigger picture. Yes. Help me to clarify where I am and where I'd like to go, to maintain focus. A mantra, absolutely. Allow me to relate to others on my team, shared values. So once you finish, as we mentioned, you just click to minimize that and then come back to Zoom, and you should be able to see people's responses as we're going through. Yeah, it would be provide grounding and launching place. Yeah, remind me why I'm doing the work I'm doing. Perfect. Excellent. Thank you so much for all these good answers. And that's exactly the reason why it's helpful to have it. And so here's the last question of this series. So I'll ask you again to go back to the polls, click on the chat if you're not there now. And the next question is, what 3 words do you think you might include in your why or core purpose or your mission statement? So this is just a brainstorm. Obviously, most of us will need lots of time to really reflect. But what comes to mind as you think about, what am I about? Compassion, support, understanding, focus. Wow, inspire, encourage, support. Respect, empathy, support. That's awesome. Yeah, and of course, as you know, these are all about your core values. Who are focus, guide, support, faith, family, honesty, connection. Excellent. Love, care, and confidence. And again, once you've typed your 3 in, just minimize, look at the Zoom, and then you'll see your peers' answers. Mentor, best, service, ethical decision-making. Listen, empathy, support. How much support comes up, eh? Family, growth, compassion. Collaborative, supportive, focus. And so as a leader, understanding your why, understanding your values is really important, because you'll see as we go through the series, and as you know, as a leader or as emerging leaders, that hard times will come, hard decisions will come, loneliness comes with leadership. And so the more that we know ourselves, the more that we can go back to our purpose and understand who we are, the easier it is when those tough decisions come up. So leadership isn't just about the what and the how, it's about the why. And good leaders nurture that within themselves. And that's what, again, why we wanted to focus this webinar, the start of the webinar with you on this. Focus, dedication, support, passion, inspire, guide. I love that. People, enjoy, and important. Caring, authenticity, and supportive. Support, understanding, and respect. Wow, that's interesting words there. Sustainability, justice, and softness. Genuine empathy and support. Non-judgmental, respect, and empathy. Empowerment, empathy, challenge the status quo. Truth, objectivity, and respect. Passion and empathy. Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing these. Stay just a second longer to see if we can see them all. Mindfulness, intention, and compassion. Integrity, inspire, connection. Diversity, inclusion. Beautiful. Compassion and integrity. And so hopefully, as you see your peers' words come up, you're able to kind of pick other ones that are important. And if you are thinking of doing, or you will be doing the certificate, I'd be grabbing some of these words right now, because I'd be thinking about the fact that this is going to be part of the work that I need to do for this assignment. Teamwork, inspire, and dedication. Excellent. Thank you. All right. So I'll close that for now, and then we'll go back to the slides and continue on. So you might ask yourself, how do we get there? One of the things, and we've talked about it already, but you know, we do this, or I do this, and I wish I could be at the side of this rock all the time and looking that centered and grounded, but that's not the reality. My reality looks more like this, right? There is laundry and homework and bills and forms and to-do lists and checklists and a whole bunch of stuff that our daily lives have. And I'm sure yours doesn't look a whole lot more different than mine. And what's important about the mission statement is that through all of this, it grounds. It allows us to say, okay, what is it that I'm about? And so many of you articulated that when we talked about why it might be valuable. So what I want to do is I want to just share with you one way of putting a core or your why statement or your core purpose statement together. So one of the things that's really important to think about is that you don't need to wait until you're in formal leadership to do this. And on the other side, it's never too late to write one. So this is the moment. It's a perfect moment to do it. In fact, it's an interesting moment as we hopefully get out of COVID to think about what am I about? Understand that leadership springs from your core identity. And it's so interesting you wrote that when you talked about ever since I was a child, people have always seen it in me. As I started my work career, there was something in your core identity that said that leadership is for you. And what we want to do is for you to give words to that through writing your why statement. And it really should articulate why you get up out of bed every morning, the why of your leadership. And so here's one way to do it. And I'll share a little bit about how this happened for me. So I was 24. I was taking a course in which I needed to write a mission statement early in my marriage. And now you have to understand, Dan is a sports loving, beer drinking Irish man. So any of this touchy-feely stuff was a real stretch for him to do. But he loved me, and so he decided that, okay, I'll take this trip to the beach, which included great food, some wine, beer for him, and an opportunity to just really sit and say, what are we about? So in fact, I wrote mine, he wrote his, and we actually have one for our marriage as well. And so some of the things that I advise, I hope that you'll take time to reflect. As we did this assignment last year, a lot of people talked about coming back to it. So taking, and it's true, taking time to kind of write a draft, let it sit and come back to it. I know it's hard right now. It's hard because we're so busy, because there's this merging of our work life and our home life. And so it becomes even more difficult to kind of step back. But if you're able to, now that the good weather is here, I encourage you to do that, to just take time to sit with it. And so from my perspective, and again, there's so many different ways of doing this. You'll see at the bottom of the slide that there's a lot of other resources if you don't want to do it this way. The assignments from last year really showed a real breadth of how it can come together. For some people, it was a visual with few words. For others, it was a really long litany of where they wanted to ensure that it really fits who you are as you develop it for yourself. And consider and write all of your roles as an example. It's a one way to start, and it's not the only way, and it's not the way that you have to do it, but it helps to say, who am I in these different parts of my life? And then think about writing your values as you started to do in that list of top 3, and perhaps select your top 5 where you want to know, you are telling yourself, out of this, I want to be sure that my statement captures these 3 to 5 things. Somewhere in it, it needs to, because this is so deeply who I am. Now breathe, relax, and imagine. And in quiet, this is the exercise that we did. So imagine that you're at your 80th birthday party, and it's a guided meditation. So you have your eyes closed, and at your 80th birthday party, imagine an amazing celebration where people from all of your walks of life are there. Imagine the party in as much detail as you can. Who's there, the setting, the decorations, the food, the music. Now, imagine individuals from your life standing there and one by one sharing who you are and how you've impacted their life, work, your community, and the world. Imagine you have fulfilled your roles in your leadership to your fullest potential. So it's a real exercise of looking ahead and saying, yeah, what do I want my life to be about and how do I want to be remembered? Now, again, this might not work for you. Some of you might be thinking, oh my gosh, that's kind of out there. I'm not sure I can do it. Find a way that works for you. Other examples are there. But in that meditation, in that guided meditation, it allows you to really think about it and reflect. And from there, come out of it and write some of what you heard by role in the tribute words. And again, it's not that you have to do it this way in terms of writing your mission statement or your why statement this way, but it gives you a starting point. So use this to inspire your why, and then remember that there's actually no right or wrong way to do it. So that's the invitation to all of you to take time to really think about the deep why of your leadership and of your being. So you might ask, okay, so you write this big why statement, and what do you do with it? Like, how does it help you? And of course, many of us use it differently. I've been lucky, again, as I mentioned to you, that I've been able to really reflect on it and refine it over my life. I find it very helpful. And so here's one tool that I use. So you see that on here at the top left, I have my why, which we've just read. And then every year, January 1st of every year, I take time, it's alone time. I reflect on the year that was, and I reflect on the year that is coming. And in the next quadrant, I actually have this little sheet. I write, this year, which is 2021, on things I really want to focus on. So it's interesting that one of the first words that came up was being grounded. And that's true for me this year. I want to focus on being grounded. My life right now is filled with really great things, but it's also filled with really challenging things. My family's experienced some real challenges through COVID. And I know that what I need to do is stay grounded for them and for me and lend my calm for them. And so I really want to focus that out of my mission in my why statement. That's a piece of this year. I want to hang on to what has been life-giving during the pandemic. So for us, there have been some good things about being together, about being home, about not traveling quite as much for me. And so I want to be sure that I hang on to some of that. And I also want to be sure that I live wholeheartedly. And so that includes the experiences of all of the range of feelings that I have, whether it is deep pain or joy or laughter or anger, whatever it might be, I want to live that way this year. I want to also think about the gifts that I want to bring into 2021, like peace and presence, love, wisdom, and really being in it. And I also want to think about the habits that I want to nurture. And so you see here some of the ones, the difference between having a pause between stimulus and response. So I have teenagers and young adults, so that's a big one for me. And you see that I've written other ones that are important. And then here in the bottom, I write goals that I want to have related to these things. And then on an ongoing basis, and I wish I could say I did it weekly, but I don't. I do it probably once a month. What went well, what didn't, what are my priorities, and what are some ways I can continue to focus on my goals and tackle this week's priorities or this month's priorities. So I need to tell you that I fail all the time, but I try. And our hope in you discovering your why as a leader and as a person is that it will ground you and give you direction and remind you. And certainly it helps us not to lose heart, to be disillusioned, and to burn out. So this is one way of doing this work. So how does it translate then? This is personal work that we do as leaders. How does it translate when you're leading others? So if I have a team, how do I take what I'm learning here today and translate it into the work that I'm doing with the team that I have? And so this is actually really translatable. So I've taken this form and I've worked with teams on it. So where you might take some time as a team, hopefully in person at some point soon, but maybe virtually, to really think about your team's why, your team's core purpose. And so always, of course, aligned to the vision and the mission of your organization. And that's why here we wouldn't call it mission, we'd call it your team's why or team's core purpose. So for example, you might be working in a mental health organization and be able to say, I'm on the crisis response team. And you might then say, well, therefore, what is our team's why? And articulate that and come together to write that. And then take time to say, in 2021, what is it that we really want to focus on this year? What gifts, strengths, and skills do we bring into 2021 because of who we are and what we've learned? What needs do we have that we really need to take into account? And what's our hope for 2021? So this is a really grounding, good exercise to do with your team to really get to that, not so much the how and the what, but the why of the work that we do. You then can go into your yearly goals here, which of course, again, need to align to your mission, to your organization's mission and strategic plan. But looking at those big statements and looking at your core or purpose or your why, then really begin to say, what are our goals based on the reflections of this year? And then when you meet, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly or once a month or quarterly, whatever works, being able to come back to this and say, what have we done well? What didn't go so well and we really need to focus on? What are the priorities based on where we're going? And what are some ways that we can continue to focus and tackle this week's priorities or this month's priorities? So being able to say, I've done the work myself and now I want to do it with the team. Certainly some of the reflections from last year also talked about leaders then inviting their team members to do the work for themselves on their core why as well. So things for you to think about and translate into this work as a team. So I just want to stop there and we'll go back to the polls for a moment. And the next question, so again, I'll put the poll, it's there already, but I'll put it up again. And I'll ask you now to just see if you have any questions. Oh, so it always starts at the top again. Sorry, one sec. Any comments, thoughts, or questions about this idea of how you write one, how you might use it, how it translates to working with your team? Just hold there for a second to see if there's anything and see if I can answer any questions you might have. Awesome, thank you. Really cool and speaks to me, so glad, so glad. Yeah, that's a really good point. I hope I can find time to do this, absolutely. And one of the things I might encourage you to do is try to see if you can book even an evening to start, an hour, and just say, I'm just gonna take time, go for a walk, just to start it in small snippets if you can. It's a good point. Love this. I think it'll be a good challenge. Thank you. Love it so much. It aligns with where I am in my leadership and where the team is at, as well as our change process. Excellent. And you know, again, coming out of COVID is a really good time, both personally, I hope we're coming out of COVID, and as a team to kind of recenter and think about what we've learned and where we want to go. Empowering. Great exercise. Excited. Awesome. Needs to be fluid. Oh, great point. Mine is dynamic as you wouldn't believe, but it's dynamic and yet it always has the same themes. It's really interesting. Valuable. Okay. Good alignment. Exactly. Within the teams as well. Absolutely. When you're doing it with teams, don't go rogue. You've got to align to vision, mission, and strategy, but you can do that and still have lots of latitude for your team. Good. I'm looking forward to finding time. Yes, that's a good point. Self-reflection has always been difficult for me, so I hope that I can really learn from this. Yeah, and sometimes, you know, having a tool like the ones that we've talked about helping you do it might be helpful, and really be gentle with yourself as we go forward. Good. A challenge, but excited, simplified, and know, yeah. Realigning as life changes. Absolutely. You can imagine mine didn't have anything about motherhood initially. Now it's a big focus for me. Yes, I like that. I like the idea of bringing in our identities holistically. All part of us. Absolutely. That's part of good leadership, is being able to integrate our wholeness and who we are into how we lead. So thank you for your comments. That's excellent. All right, so we'll exit out of this and we'll come back to the slides. So look for your Zoom. And we'll talk just a little bit about the assignment. So important, again, whether you're doing it as for a certificate or not, obviously we really encourage you to do this or to refresh it. If you are doing it for certificate, just a little bit of information here. So at the end of each of the webinars, you will see the reflection questions. Kathleen will post them by either later today or first thing tomorrow morning. And in fact, in sessions that will come, they'll be posted the Sunday evening or early Monday morning. So for some people, they like to have the assignment as they go through the webinar. And also the slides will be posted because again, we know that some people appreciate having them ahead. For this one, and always, in fact, it will be about 2 to 3 pages. That's your assignment. It's a pass, fail, or resubmit with comments. That's how you're being marked on it. It's due the day of the next webinar. So this one's due April 26th. And again, details are going to come very shortly. But basically, what we want you to do is go through a process to write or update your why statement and ensure it includes an element around leadership. That's what we're going to be looking for. Reflect on how it aligns with the why or the mission of your organization. That's really important because as you think about who you are and the amount of time that we spent at work, we want to be sure that we are working with an organization that resonates with our core. And so this will be an opportunity for you to say, here's my why, here's our mission statement, and here's the alignment or not of what I see. And then last part is share what the process of creating or refreshing your why statement was like for you and how you can incorporate this with your team and others. Okay, so that's the assignment. And again, you'll get more details for those of you who are doing the certificate. And if you're not, we still encourage you to do the work. I want to turn to our attention now to thinking about the how and the what, just as we prepare for the next webinar. So again, we've really focused here, and I want us just to begin to think a little bit about the how and the what as we move into the next part of our sessions. So as we were preparing the webinars, we started to really think about the distinctions between leadership and management, and is there a difference? We think that there is, and we think that it's important sometimes to distinguish between the two in order for you to be able to develop the skills as a leader in leadership and your management skills. And that doesn't mean management as in a manager. It just means management skills, which sometimes go hand in hand with leadership, but require a little bit of a different focus. And in a moment, we're just going to go through an exercise. But to start, what I'd love to know is what you see as the distinction. So again, we'll go back to the polls because that's the best way for us to gather everybody's feedback quickly. See if I can do this without going through all of them. It doesn't appear so. So sorry about that. It's a new way that the program is working, and it's driving me crazy. Okay, there you go. What is the difference between leadership and management? Yeah, sorry, Patricia, I'm seeing your question there as people are writing. Will the assignment questions be emailed to us? If not, could you go back for a minute as I was on the last one writing it down? Sorry, Patricia, yes, they will be emailed to you. So thanks for that. And you'll see, maybe to your point, Patricia, as people are coming back to this, you will receive, there's going to be a website that's created with a password where the video, the PowerPoint, and the assignment will always be. So you'll have that as well. Thanks for that question. So what do you see as the difference between leadership and management? Management day to day, yeah, deals with details, good, yeah. Leadership is leading a team to achieve a common goal, yeah. Empowering versus controlling, interesting, thank you, yeah. Leadership is about leading people, management focuses on managing resources. Dealing with people. Management leads to, feels to me more about control, whereas leadership is about guidance and working alongside. Management is more about what you are. Guidance and encouragement. Yeah, not all leaders are managers, and the other is true. Managers make sure that the organizational goals and drivers are met. Leadership is empowering others by example. Leadership, coaching, leading, guiding. Interesting. Leadership is an act. Management is a position you hold. Interesting. Yeah. And you're right. I think you can have leadership skills and management skills regardless of where you are in the organization. And whether you have a title or not, this is about you as in growth as a person, and you can use both leadership and management skills throughout your career. Leadership is my gift, management, managing details. Yeah, good. Yeah, so you've got some really good, some real clarity on the distinction. Yeah. Okay. So let's go back. Yeah, leadership inspires others to do well. Management ensures that work gets done. Yeah. And so here's a question as I'm seeing all of this come up is for you to be starting to think about, where do I tilt? Do I tilt towards leadership or management? And understand that both are absolutely necessary to be really good at the work that you do in leadership. Leadership is about supporting people to be the best they can be. Management is about tasks. Leadership is working with the frontline team to make appropriate changes to programs. Management is needing to make immediate decisions regarding resources without frontline input. Interesting, yeah. So there you're seeing some of the differences sometimes that people might make leadership as a whole concept and management being a structural piece. Okay. To believe in your vision, yeah, excellent. What we want to do is make sure that we are really thinking about both of them. So here are some distinctions that might be helpful as we begin this idea here. So leadership fosters the vision. Management requires tenacity to follow through. So both are critical. And again, as I go through these examples, I want you to think, am I more A or B? Where do I need to lean and learn? So how do I foster and get my team excited about the vision of where we are going? And how do I continually work toward meeting the goals set before us? And sometimes it's a matter of saying, you know what, I really do this naturally. This other piece I really need to learn, or I need to be supported to do this because this is a part that's doesn't come natural, maybe isn't as energizing, because that's true too. So which of the two? Leadership inspires change. Management manages the transformation. So questions here, A or B, how, and of course a blend of both. How can I inspire my team toward the changes required within the organization? And then how can I develop a plan to transform my team towards the change? So you see how both are really important. And throughout the rest of the webinar series, we're going to be talking about this important element of both aspects. Sometimes we'll see where we have people who've created an amazing vision. They've gone through an incredible strategic planning process, for example, but then there's no follow through. So for as much as that's awesome, it doesn't get us to where we want to go. Or we see the other, we see these very detailed plans that people need to plug themselves into, but there's no why to it. There's no understanding of why, of where we need to go and why we need to go there. So both really important aspects. And again, I want you to think about, where do I fall and where do I need to grow? Third one, leadership uses imagination. Management requires specific. And we saw that a lot in the answers you just provided. So how can I work with my team to imagine a new way of being within the context of the organization's vision or strategic plan? And then how do I develop a detailed plan to translate broad goals into specific actions? And I'm sure some of you are reading and going, oh, I really like B, A, I'm not very good at, or the other way around. And again, we want you to think about the fact that as a holistic leader, you need to at least understand how these two work together, what you're really good at, and where it is that you can get support for the other. Excuse me. Continuing on. Leadership needs to think broadly, systematically. Management requires concrete data. So how can I make connections with the vision and the system that I interact with, both internal and external? And that could be about partnerships, about having an understanding of the entire system. But then realizing, how can I ensure I have the right data and can work with it to ensure optimal results? What I might say is that this table, and I'll go through the last one and then you'll see, might even be helpful for you to think about bringing to your team and saying, as a team, where do we land? And I know sometimes we do this exercise where we have each of these questions, and on one side is A and then on the other side is B. And we have people kind of line up according to where they see themselves. And that tells us a lot about collectively as a team, as we think about leadership and management skills, where do we land? Where do we need support? who has certain gifts that can really help us to move it to the next level. Because one without the other in each of these statements doesn't allow it to move through the way that we need it to in an organization. And then the last one, leadership requires the ability to engage. Management requires the ability to accomplish. Both so necessary. Again, we can really spend time engaging people and getting them excited, but unless we're able to move that needle to go from ideas to action, we're not getting to where we need to go. So how can I continually work toward engaging my team in the work ahead? Or how do I create a work plan to ensure we meet our targets? So we need both of those pieces. So we wanted to introduce this to you here so that you have an understanding of the areas that are going to come. We start with the why, and that's the work of this session. But we also, for those of you who might think, oh my gosh, please tell me we're going to get more practical, we certainly are. We are going to move into all of these areas and really think about it from a leadership lens and from a management lens in the variety of sessions that we're going to be having together. So the first session, the next session that we have on April 26th, is about what changes for you when you become a leader. This is kind of an important topic, particularly as we think about new and emerging leaders, where sometimes in many cases, new and emerging leaders come from within. So you've been a teammate and part of the group that does the work, and now suddenly out of an opportunity, you now become the leader. And it's really important for you as the leader to be thinking about, what does that change? How do my responsibilities shift? And Carrie, who'll be leading the next session, will talk very specifically about that. And there are some mistakes that leaders can make if they don't have a deep understanding of the things that do change from a fiduciary perspective, from a relationship perspective, from a risk perspective, from a health and safety perspective, from many, many different perspectives as you move into a leadership role, whether it's your first leadership role or a different leadership role within the organization. It's important for you as a leader to really reflect on what it is that you want to be doing there. And so for me, I'll go back to my early career, and I was very lucky that at the age of 25, again, I'm going to call it luck, I was given the opportunity to become a director. So I was very early on in my career. I came from a team, and I was really enjoying my work at the team. I put my name and didn't think that I would get it, and I ended up getting it. What I didn't anticipate is the change that meant for me, that it was different going out with everybody, that suddenly my friends were people I needed to supervise, that some people who applied for the job, now I became their supervisor, and that didn't go over well at 25 and as a woman. And so I wish I had had more understanding of how my relationships would change, how my the responsibilities I had would shift. And so part of what we hope for is, initially to understand why, and then also for you to have an understanding of, as I move into a leadership role, a more formal leadership role, I need to really be thinking and intentionally being prepared for some of the things that are going to shift for me. I wish I had the experience. It was a really tough one for me, that first step into leadership. So we hope that by the next webinar, you'll have greater insight into that as you move into leadership roles as well. So again, today was about the why. We wanted to provide you context of leadership and management and give you a sense of what it is that we're going to be moving to as we move into the next webinar. So with that, the last thing that we'd like to do is just give you an opportunity to check out, for you to give us a sense of what this was like for you. We very much appreciate you joining us. So we're going to go back to the polls, and the question in the poll is, we got it up first because it never quite works. Here we go. Oh, there we go. What one word, so just one, if it's two words, you got to hyphenate it. What one word describes how you were leaving the webinar today? So what I'll ask you to do is just, oh, awesome. Put your word in and then minimize so that you can come back and watch all the words, and not just say a few final words. Just give it a moment. Wow, inspired, overwhelmed. Yeah, there's lots to it. motivated, hopeful, pumped, positive, interested, re-energized, yay. Light bulb, awesome, intrigued, thoughtful, vulnerable, insightful, re-energized, curious, encouraged, intrigued, excited, inclusion, refreshed, hope. Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us for this awesome journey that we will be on together. Information will be coming to your email, so you'll have that. Please mark the days for the rest of our sessions. Know also that if you have questions, you can always reach out. Kathleen is the coordinator of the project, but if you need to reach any of us, you'll be able to do that as well. Thank you again, and have a great rest of your Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.